Hey there everyone, welcome to FJX2000 Productions and another episode of Let's FJ. In today's episode, this is totally unscripted, we're going off the rails here, and we're actually going to be looking at FJ Cruiser YouTube videos, the most viewed FJ Cruiser YouTube videos, and just sort of get a reaction to some of these videos. Just seeing my opinions on them, because, you know, there's some very viewed FJ videos out there, but is the information always accurate? Are they always saying the truth? Or what are my thoughts when I see certain FJs? You're gonna get a little look into my mind, what I think and what I see when I see FJ Cruiser YouTube videos. And I just thought, since my channel is all about FJ Cruisers, it would be kind of a fun video to do. So here we go. Let's look up some videos. Right now I have this incognito tab pulled up, so this way we're not getting like any sort of alteration to how the search results are gonna be. And we're gonna type in FJ Cruiser into the search bar, and this is just what you get when you search. Oh, that's funny. So the second and third videos, when you just type in FJ Cruiser, are my videos. One that I released just about a week ago, and one that I released this past summer, which is pretty awesome. But we don't want those. We want to find the most viewed FJ videos. So let me find view count. Alright, so the first video we're going to be looking at is this one, where it's the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon versus the Toyota FJ Cruiser, Interco TLS 2X2 versus Maxxis Trepidor off-road 4x4 video. Almost 6 million views, posted a year ago on the channel. Toyota FJ Cruiser off-road. Alright, we got this video. Okay, it looks like the classic Toyota versus Jeep, and in this case, yeah, Jeep Wrangler versus an FJ Cruiser. Doesn't get much more heated than that. And also from the title of the video, it looks like they're also kind of looking at a competition between the tires that are being used. So that's a pretty sweet FJ. My first FJ was all black, and I loved how it looked. And so this FJ looks like they blacked out the roof, which is such an awesome look. It is an awesome looking Jeep too. They're both super lifted and have big old tires on them. That FJ has to have at least 35s on it. Going through the mud, yep. And look at that, it has the River Raider snorkel, I believe is what it's called. That's a really cool looking snorkel. I'm not sure if they still make it, but it's an awesome one. Again, they're evenly matched. There's not one that's pulling ahead of the other. One thing I love about that FJ is that snorkel does allow it to go into water that's a little bit deeper without a worry as much of water getting into the engine, which is really important. It doesn't look like the Jeep has a snorkel like that, but it's doing just fine. Both are very evenly matched. I also love how the FJ has the rock sliders and the bumpers, but the railing that goes by the fenders. So it's like this exoskeleton around the entire border. You'd never have to worry about a grocery cart hitting it or something like that, you know? The FJ is doing just fine, handling the mud like a boss. It's interesting seeing the FJ without a spare tire. They just have the spare tire cover on there that has the FJ logo. Those aren't as popular in the US, but I definitely see them in other countries. And I do believe this is filmed in another country. I couldn't tell you which one though. The FJ has those cool panels along the side too that go like up on the door, and they have kind of the tread pattern on them and the FJ logo. Those are really sweet too. And the FJ has a cool hood scoop going on, which you don't see that often. Oh, the person filming almost got run over and kind of panicked. Oh, be careful out there. Don't stand in the way of a crazy off-roader. It looks like that FJ also has maybe like a long travel suspension in the front, which is it's pretty beefed up. Oh, and it looks like, oh, it has dual shocks for the front too. So yeah, it looks like it has long travel and a dual shock setup in the front. So that's a serious suspension setup. Here they are going over some rougher terrain, a little bit more articulating involved. And look at how muddy it is. Those tires are just completely caked. Here goes the FJ as well. Oh, is the FJ stuck? Oh no. FJ's got this. FJ's all good. This must be Russian or Ukrainian or something. Dang. Well, they both looked super evenly matched. They both did fine. That's awesome. Alright, this next video is posted by a channel called SUV Battle, and it has less than half the amount of views as the first video. But it looks like they're comparing the Tesla Model X, Mercedes G63 and GLE, the BMW X5, Volkswagen Touareg, I'm not sure how that's said, and then the FJ Cruiser. Kind of a crazy mix match of vehicles. I don't really think of any of those being the competition, the main competition to the FJ Cruiser, but let's check it out. Man, they're doing some crazy off-roading for these vehicles. They're doing some off-roading with these vehicles that I would never consider to do with these vehicles. Some of these are like way nice, like the Land Rover or the Mercedes. Like I would never take them on these trails. They're not like built for that, but that doesn't mean that they can't do it or that people don't do it. At least he admits that it's not fair, that it is unevenly matched between these vehicles. I think I'm going to fast forward to the part where they go on the FJ Cruiser. From the search bar down here, or the video timer, it looks like they cover it in sections, each vehicle. So let's go find the FJ Cruiser. Of course, they save the FJ Cruiser for last. It's near the very end of the video. So let's check it out. See, this is like the classic FJ Cruiser setup. You got your Wrangler Duratracs, which are supposedly a great tire. I've thought about getting this tire myself. It has the 16-inch TRD wheels in black, which is pretty awesome. It has some rock sliders, factory roof rack, has some lights on the stock front bumper, has a stock rear bumper. But even just this setup, and it probably even has just like your classic 3-inch lift, or that might just even be the stock tire size. When it drives a little more, I'll be able to tell. But it looks like first they're testing it in 4 high. It seems to be doing just fine on the hill. It looks like that's the stock size tire, like a 265/75 R16. And right now they are testing it in 4 high. When it gets a little more steep or really loose surface, I tend to like to drive in 4 low. Especially for stuff like this, A-Track would work amazing. But they're doing 4 high, and even then it still seems to be doing just fine. So let's say they are using A-Track. And from what I can see, it's hard to see underneath. It might have skid plates. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it has skid plates, some degree of skid plates underneath, which is pretty exciting. And just like that, I guess they're done with the whole section. Let's see what they say. Is this their sum up? Yeah, the Lexus is not doing well. That Lexus was not built for this. If it was like the Land Cruiser equivalent, like Lexus, what is it, GX470, it would have been fine. The GLE is not doing well. Okay, they put it in off-road mode. And look, there it goes. It's using that traction control to get it up the hill. Look at that wobbliness. I don't think they had that problem on this specific climb with the FJ. The FJ has way more travel. This is interesting to see the Tesla off-road. With the electric motors, there's some interesting things you can do, especially if each of the wheels are individually controlled. That's pretty cool to watch. I think they had a bit of a preference towards that G-Wagon. They're like, oh yeah, the FJ is good, but look at the G-Wagon. Which, yeah, the G-Wagons, the Mercedes, they have some heritage of like off-roading, and the G-Wagon especially is supposed to be super rugged. But this specific model, look at how thin those tires are. This is not what I think of when I think of an epic off-road machine. And those tires, the tires being like actual all-terrain off-road tires, that'll give it a huge benefit just right there. It's so interesting, the idea that a crossover could be used for off-roading. These ones that they show in the video especially. They're not what I think of when you think of off-roading, but I guess they get along just fine. Well, that was a very interesting video. None of those, only a couple of those would I ever even consider going off-road with, but it just goes to show you don't need an epic SUV to go off-roading to some degree, but that doesn't mean that you should go off-roading. Alright, let's go back and check out the next video. Looks like another Russian video. I'm interested to see what the translation of this is. Alright, so I just did a Google Translate for this next video. 2.6 million views, just a little bit less than the last video we looked at. Again, it looks to be Russian or something, but I just ran the video title through the Google Translator, and it came across as Not Boring Toyota FJ Cruiser. So I guess it's going to be a review of the FJ Cruiser that's hopefully a favorable one. Let's see what they do. A very classic looking FJ Cruiser. Those are, I believe, the same exact tires as the last FJ had in the last video, and the same wheels, just in the silver, the TRD 16-inch wheels. It is reliable. Yep, of course. Everyone loves their Toyotas, loves the reliability. That's one of the big draws for FJs. It's hard to react to what he's saying and read at the same time. It's wonderful to see an iceberg FJ just like mine. I love my iceberg FJ. Yeah, the creation of this car is a legend. Yeah, it is quite the story that it even came into production in the first place. Sometimes I don't think the translation is quite doing it justice. Yeah, there we get a good view of these tires. Those Wrangler Duratracs are really good tire. And it looks like it's the classic, you know, lifted and increased tire size FJ. Probably like a 33-inch tire, the 285/75 R16 tire on a 3-inch lift, which is perfect for the FJ. It's perfect. It looks like he's pointing out how big or small there is. It looks like a pretty typical car review, I should say. It just happens to be in Russian, and it has over 2 million views. Goes the FJ. You can tell when you're comparing the FJ and the Range Rover, the FJ just has so much more ground clearance. Looks like he's giving his concluding thoughts at this point, but ultimately it seems like they're talking in favor of it. The translation is really rough, but it seems like they enjoy the FJ Cruiser, and they're impressed with it, at the very least. Alright, looking at the next video, this one has 2.5 million views by Doug DeMuro. He's a car reviewer here in the US, and it looks like from the video title, he's saying, here's why the FJ Cruiser should come back. I agree, it should come back, but that doesn't mean that it will. But let's see what he has to say. Let's see what his thoughts are. That's a 2010 Trail Team Special Edition in particular. That FJ looks completely factory stock, except it doesn't have the rock sliders that would have come on a Trail Team Special Edition. They replaced them with just regular step rails, and it has newer tires than from the factory. It's always funny to hear from like just a standard car reviewer's perspective what they say about the FJ Cruiser, because there's things for me after having had an FJ for like over 10 years now, you just don't think about certain things that make the FJ so unique. But hearing a random car reviewer say like, oh, it has 3 windshield wipers, like, oh yeah, it does. Normal cars just have 2. And just little things like that that you kind of forget. And it's kind of neat seeing an outside perspective of someone's view of the FJ. Yeah, California FJ Cruisers are very sought after because I don't think they get as much rust as some other places in the country, so they're really good condition generally. Look at the color on that one that he used for that picture. That's just like what inspired the sandstorm color for the FJ Cruiser that you're seeing right here. Yep, I talk about that a lot on my channel, how the FJ40 was the grandfather of the FJ Cruiser. It was definitely the inspiration. It's so true. The popularity of these things has gone insane. The resale value on these things in the used car market is insane. That's so funny that he just said that if it came out today, that it would have done better than it did when it came out. And that's like what I said in my discontinuation of the FJ video that I just came out with. And I didn't even see this video or like use it as like reference really. I just that's just something I said in my video, almost word for word. And it's good to know. Me and Doug, we're on the same wave here. The 3 windshield wipers is fun. It is a cool thing. The only other US vehicle that I know that's gonna have 3 windshield wipers is the Hummer EV. Isn't that so fun, seeing the 3 windshield wipers? I love that. I think it's so fun. I love pointing it out to people whenever they ride in my FJ for the first time and it happens to be raining or snowy. Just like, hey, check it out, there's 3. I love the FJ mirror lights. I love that the US did that. You don't find that in other countries for their standards and safety, whatever, but in the FJ it's so neat. The factory mirror light is indeed like so dim. I've replaced mine with LEDs. I know a lot of people replace theirs with LEDs, and I do recommend that. And there's even a mod that you can do where you kind of like get in there and you can pull out this little blue sort of hued filter that also kind of decreases the brightness. And if you take that out, then it even makes just the standard stock bulb a little bit brighter. But honestly, they are super dim. They don't have much functional purpose besides just looks. They don't even have a turn signal unless you wire it up that way. But they just kind of sit there and they look cool. The doors are a big quirk, and that's a big selling point for some people. Don't you love the interior of that Trail Teams? How it has the colored seat inserts? That was the first year they did it, was in 2010. What a clean looking example of an FJ. That thing looks so pristine. Yes, that C-pillar, the famous C-pillar of FJ Cruisers. It is so wide, and it does create a big blind spot. It is true. It is, again, one of those quirks you have to get used to. Yep, look at that. Blind spot. That's why I have the little mirrors. He'll probably talk about those. Just watch. It's so interesting to see him note that how like flat it is and how it's like just this 90-degree flat on top and then flat on the front. I don't even think about it, but for some people that ride in my car, they see that and they're like, what the heck? They're thrown off by it all the time.
The factor is the fact that this gear lever looks insanely like a pepper grinder or a pepper molding.
A pepper grinder. I've never heard that. I've never heard the pepper grinder. But one thing, so on my 2008 Trail Team Special Edition, it has the silver aluminum shifter knob. And I have people tell me all the time, or question, does this come with the car? Yes, it does. And it looks like a lightsaber. Straight up looks like a lightsaber. It's funny to hear him say it looks like a pepper grinder. It is really big and long, and I guess you could look at it that way. But I've always looked at it more in my mind like a lightsaber. They were not inspired by a pepper grinder. They just wanted to look beefy and utilitarian. I love that. That's where I love to keep just random little things, a tire pressure gauge, some loose change, stuff like that. I love that spot on the FJ.
Toyota has an auxiliary side sun visor in the FJ Cruiser. You can move the front sun visor over, put down the side sun visor, and then you have multiple...
Yep, and then you have it all continuously covered. It's so great. Yeah, if you have a 2007 FJ and you don't have those side sun visors, sorry. You can add them, but the 2008 and on FJs came with that. That is true. The climate controlled knobs were designed to be huge because they wanted the FJ to be something that you could take out like on a work site and you could operate the levers and the buttons with like big thick gloves on, so that way you didn't have to like have these nimble little knobs and buttons. You could like just, it was big and chunky. That was the whole idea behind the FJ, so that was a distinct design choice.
They want you to be able to operate them if you're wearing like gloves.
Oh, look at that. He says it right there. It's all awesome. I love the center console of the FJ. I love the big buttons. I love the big knobs. And the simplicity of it all. That's a big appeal too. It's not overly complicated. The subwoofer didn't come on every FJ, but the subwoofer that he's showing in this video does come on the 2007, the 2010 FJ Cruisers, and then it got upgraded to a JBL one in 2011. And in 2011, it no longer had the button. My FJ is the 2008, and it wasn't until 2009 that they added the backup cameras on the FJs. But I wish I even had that, because not having anything is a big struggle when backing up. We love the gauges. We love the gauges on the FJ Cruiser, right? So that compass blinking shows that the compass hasn't been calibrated. So even though right there it's saying that they're going like west, southwest, or whatever, it might not be accurate. The inclinometer is what that's called, and it is awesome. I love having that. I love having that little triple gauge dash cluster. It's such a unique thing for the FJ. Yep. So for certain FJs with certain packages, they put the external color on the interior, like around the radio and the door panels, but on the doors, that's not always the case. Some FJ packages don't have the color match door inserts. And this FJ, because it is the 2010 Trail Team Special Edition, has those color matched seat inserts. The FJ would not have nearly been as iconic or looked like an actual FJ40 successor if it hadn't had put the classic Toyota lettered logo. The wheels shown right there, just so you know, or the wheels, yeah, that's right. And the tires, though, that is the BF Goodrich KO2 tire, like the newer version of their all-terrain tire, which wasn't around when the FJ was still being produced in the US. So the FJs, they always came, like the special editions, with the KO all-terrain tire, the original BF Goodrich all-terrain tire, not the newer one. This one, it probably has a few thousand miles on it. They had to replace the tires, and so they have the KO2s, the factory closest replacement that you can get to the KO. You can see how the spare tire does still have the original KO tire on it, not used or anything. It still has those little nipple thingies on there. But yeah, it looks like they didn't replace the spare tire when they replaced all the other tires. It is true, it reduces glare, and that only came on the 2010. Only on the 2010 Trail Teams. The tiny rear windows. Submarine windows or airplane windows, as my family calls them.
door. Even if the front door is unlocked, the rear door is locked in place, so you can't do it. You have to open the front door first.
Props to him for locking himself in the back of an FJ. It's not easy to get out once you do that.
I know there are people out there who believe this is one of the ugliest vehicles on the market.
It's so sad because I love it. And I'm glad that he doesn't hate it either.
I think it's kind of overstyled, and I would have preferred a
I don't think it's overstyled. I think it looks great. And I know a lot of people also think it looks great. It's so true. It happens all the time. He knows his prices for the FJs. It's true. They stick around that 20-ish range or even the high teens. And even then, what he just said, around the 30 range, nowadays, because that used car market has just kept on increasing, you have to pay like $40,000 for like a low mileage 2014 or 2013. It's crazy how expensive they are. Baby Hummer. That was one of the things that interested me in the FJs, because I grew up loving Hummers, and the FJ kind of looked like a mini Hummer. Oh, that hurts my heart. Yeah. I don't know.
Get an extra point if it had a removable roof, which it should have from day one, but even without it, it gets a respectable 7 out of 10.
If you wanted a removable roof, get a Jeep.
Enough that you see them very often, it gets a 4 out of 10 for a total weekend score.
A 10 out of 10, right, guys? 10 out of 10 cool factor for the FJ. 100%. It is true. The FJ is very bare bones, so I don't expect it to rate very high in, you know, his Doug ratings. Yeah. Could have even been higher than that. Yeah. I think even now, if he had done this today in like 2021 or even next year in 2022, the value on these things is incredible. Like, they are worth even more now than they were new. So I would say 10 out of 10 for like the value rating. You know, the FJ is a very niche vehicle, like kind of what I said in one of my videos, and I do agree kind of that it doesn't quite stack up against certain vehicles that have more practicality behind them, but I do think it is such a neat vehicle. And for a Toyota owner, like if you love the FJ and you don't care about the quirks, then obviously its value is going to be worth more than, you know, a 49 out of 100. Like for us, we love it so much. Like for our personal rating scales, we think it's like a 90 out of 100 at least. And that was Doug's video. So the next video that shows up is the FJ Company Sport, which is just the FJ Company. They restore, they do like resto mods on old school Land Cruisers. So that's not really FJ Cruiser related, but we do have this video with 1.9 million views. CNBC did this one, Why Toyota Killed the FJ Cruiser. And that's an interesting one that I even used sort of as a reference point for my Why the FJ Was Discontinued video. Obviously, this video applies to the US. They're going to talk about its discontinuation in 2014. Because it's awesome. No, just, I talk about this in my video too. Super fast for like a concept vehicle to go from concept to production. Yep, that's what appealed to me for sure. Some other comparisons could have been the Nissan Xterra, the Hummer H3, for sure. I don't think that's what it was. They don't even show the picture of the final edition right there. I at one time worked at a Toyota dealership, and they had sold a 2014 Trail Teams Ultimate Edition from Utah to someone in California, and they bought it back from him a year later after he traded it back in for something else, and they were able to sell it more a year later with like more miles on it than it was brand new. And nowadays, like a low mileage FJ sells way more. Like the prices I've seen on FJs going into like the $50,000-$60,000 range for these used FJs that have low mileage is just incredible. And see, this is the point in the video where it just kind of starts talking about off-road vehicles in general, not really the FJ Cruiser, which is why I personally like my FJ Cruiser why it was discontinued video more than their video. Yeah, with the Bronco coming back, it seems like the perfect time for the FJ to come back too. The market for it is booming. It's interesting that they say that Toyota may bring back small FJ Cruiser to challenge the Jeep Wrangler. And what did we just see recently? The Compact Cruiser EV. If you want to see more about that, make sure to check out my video I did about that. Oh, there's the 2012 Trail Teams. It's made for the hardcore enthusiasts. I'm a hardcore enthusiast, and hopefully if you're watching this video, you are too. Alright, and that was the CNBC video. Kind of interesting to hear their take on it. Again, make sure to check out my video. I kind of go more in depth on that topic of why the FJ Cruiser was discontinued. And even my video still has some room to like elaborate even more. Like I might even make a part 2 for that video. The next video, again, is about the FJ40, not the FJ Cruiser. But then we have the Scotty Kilmer video. Wow, here's why you need to buy a Toyota FJ Cruiser. And I actually have seen this video, and this is just like a video sent in by one of his viewers, just kind of talking about their FJ. So I'm not going to go too crazy into this video, since it is just some random person's review of it. It's not like Scotty himself, but let's see what it is. So look at that, 2012 Trail Team Special Edition. That's like my dream. I would love to have one of those someday. I love the red. It's such a great looking FJ. So yeah, he says right there, it left the worldwide market in 2018. Not true. Like it left Japan's market in early 2018, late 2017, and Australia in 2017. But you can still buy them today. And my viewers are very aware of that. Anytime I ever mention, oh, it's discontinued in 2014, they say, oh, it's still in South Africa. Oh, you can still get it over here, Philippines. Oh, you can still buy them in the UAE. Yes, I know. And obviously this person does not know that. Yeah, you don't often hear that. He said that it has its roots in the FJ40 Land Cruiser, which we all know about, but it also kind of has its roots in the Prado Land Cruiser, which is just the FJ is actually built on like the same Prado frame, and they share a lot of the same parts. But you don't really hear people talking about like how they share those same roots.
Feels like it belongs here. It's really great for.
I think it belongs in Colorado or in Moab or something, but Southern California, sure. Yeah, when they first brought the FJ Cruiser to the US, they established Toyota's trail teams, and they went out and they debuted the FJ all over the place. They showed what it could do, and those early FJs already had like 3-inch lifts on them, and they could throw ARB bumpers on them, kind of what he's talking about. I've heard from the trail teams folks that they basically took like as close of a bumper as they could get. They weren't quite designed for the FJ, but they were close enough. They had to alter them a little bit to slap them on there to have these kind of show FJs to go off-roading with. But it is interesting that very early on in the FJ's release, you could already buy lifts and bumpers and different accessories for them. It's true until they came out with the TRD Pro vehicles. At least he admits it. Not a lot of people know that. It's just kind of there for show. It's just a plastic piece and then metal underneath. There's no actual venting that happens there. Check out that FJ interior. I love the 2012 Trail Teams because it has the red, not only the matching like door panels and radio bezel like a lot of FJs have, but it's the only FJ in the US that came with the color matched steering wheel, the leather steering wheel, as well as the seat inserts. It's so cool. They did the colored inserts on other Trail Team special editions, but only the 2012 had the steering wheel, and it just kind of makes the red pop even more. Even though he does say you can get it wet, you don't want to get it wet because there is still like cushiony fabric underneath the floor, and if that gets waterlogged, then you get mold, and it's still bad. So don't flood your FJ. It doesn't know how to use an inclinometer. You don't really use it. It just kind of does its thing when you're off-roading, and then you look at it and you see how much of an angle you're at.
In 2008, Toyota launched the Trail Teams edition of the FJ Cruiser.
Yes, they did. That's accurate.
500 to be manufactured each model year.
Not quite right. If you watch my Trail Team Special Edition video, or just my Special Editions in general video, you'll get the actual numbers. For 2008, it was 3,200 units. For 2009, there was none. For 2010, 1,500 units. For 2011 and on, then it was 2,500 units. So those wheels, they are TRD alloy wheels, but they are only 16-inch. The trail teams only came with the 16-inch wheels because the smaller wheel was better for off-roading. You have more tire, more sidewall, which is what you want. The TRDs, or the Trail Team Special Editions, they did not come with TRD brakes. That was something that someone added on. They might have even had the dealer add them on. But you can see those are aftermarket rotors. They have the drilled, they at least have drills. They might have also slots, but the TRD brakes don't just come on all Trail Teams. There's not a skid plate running the length of the undercarriage on Special Edition FJs. We're enthusiast community talking about us. FJ Cruiser forums. I love that he mentioned that. I love the FJ Cruiser forums. I'm a moderator on there actually, and I've been on there for a very long time, pretty much since the beginning of when I had an FJ. And it was the FJ Cruiser forums that inspired me to get into modding and off-roading. And if I didn't have the FJ Cruiser forums, I wouldn't be where I am today. So definitely check it out. I'm glad that he mentioned that. Well, that was awesome to check out Scotty's video about the FJ, kind of like this little show and tell. And now we get to a really exciting video, the Donut Media video. Donut Media, I'm actually subscribed to them. I love their channel. They do automotive stuff in general, but they came out with this 2 years ago. I remember the day that it came out. I was so excited because I had been commenting on these up to speed videos where they kind of dive into different topics about different vehicles. I was like, do one for the FJ, do one for the FJ, because they had done one for the 4Runner and Tacoma, and then finally they did one for the FJ, and I was like, sweet. And they used a bunch of other people's video clips throughout their video, and I was hoping they would have used one of mine. They didn't, but that's all right. I love James Pumphrey. He is so funny. Ugh, ouch. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love this video. I love this video. It's interesting because we didn't really get FJ Cruiser advertisements here in the US. I don't know where he got the whole XJ10 thing, because I've never heard that before, but maybe I should just do some more research. Maybe I'll find that, but as far as I know, it was never called like the XJ10. See, right there, that's an FJ commercial that wasn't made for the US, and it's crazy because I think if the FJ had proper advertising here in the US, it could have definitely helped boost the sales, but you only ever saw advertisements for the 4Runner, Tacoma, Tundra, stuff like that. Never for the FJ. It really is crazy. Concept 2003. We saw kind of a pre-production model in 2005, and by 2006, they were delivering FJs. Like, that turnaround, only 3 years from concept to reality, insane. Yeah, there was a little boost in 2010. We like that. We like a little boost. But interestingly enough, there are a lot of people who still like that earlier FJ, not only from a maintenance perspective, it's easier to change the oil on it, but also it had a little bit more torque than the newer FJ engine had. So some people still prefer the older style engine.
The first being tremendous off-road capability.
Yep. We love our FJs for their off-road capability, right?
The second being unusual exterior to interior design.
Amazing exterior styling. Yep, if you want to learn more about suspension, check out my series on that. That's an epic FJ that they just showed a video clip of. Oh, oh, that's so painful. Oh, rip. Rest in peace, bumper. I'm pretty sure I know where that is, where they're off-roading right there. I'm pretty sure that's in Utah at a place called Little Moab. I've been there before. I've seen that happen before. The break, the crack going across, that happened to me a few years ago with one of my windshields. It's the worst.
The design also meant that if a person in the front seat got out at the same time as the person in the back seat, they would be trapped against the parked car next to them.
You have to learn how to do the FJ shuffle, as I call it. You get the front door, the back person gets out, they shut their door, then the front person gets out, they shut their door. If you both try to get out at the same time, you're trapped, like you said. Yeah, even though they show kind of advertisements for that, using like a garden hose to wash out your FJ, I don't recommend it. We love customization.
The TRD version, which is
It's interesting right there. They're talking about the TRD version. Obviously, they're talking about the 2007 TRD Special Edition, but what they're showing right there is not it. That's just an FJ that has TRD across the hood. And again, they're showing pictures of FJs that have these parts, but this is not the FJ that they're talking about.
cooler wheels and tires, and in some cases, a different mechanical locking diff. Or
Yeah, what they're talking about right there, not quite. So for more details about that, make sure to check out my special edition video. It is the most thorough out there. It'll get you all the details. That whole, like, it had a different mechanical licking diff. No, in 2007, there was an issue. Early 2006 models didn't have it, so the A-track and the rear diff lock could work together. But then when they came out with the TRD special edition, they made it so those two systems could work in unison. And then they also did that for all the other FJs by November 2006, or somewhere in there, maybe even September. I talk about it in my other video. So check it out. Again, they're talking about the FJ Crawler. This picture that you see right here, this is not an FJ Crawler, but in my part 2 special edition video, I talk about the FJ Crawler, and that'll get you accurate information about the FJ Crawler. Right there, Trail Team Special Edition. There's an S missing. It's so hard because it is such a weird thing. Some people call it Trails Team Special Edition. Trail Teams Special Edition is the accurate way, but right there he just called it the Trail Team Special Edition. There's an S missing on Teams. So it's a funny name, but it's funny when you hear, like, you know, some sort of car review or whatever, they say it wrong. It's like, no, that's not quite it. Radiant red, radiant red. Oh, I love that part. That's pretty much me when I see a radiant red FJ.
take all of your money, drop out of college, and buy a ton of FJ cruisers.
There you go. What more could you want? Yeah, so I guess I might as well just, you know, drop out of dental school and just buy and sell FJs, right? No, I won't do that. But FJs are valuable. I love the donut video. I love the way that they edit their videos and the way they kind of debut vehicles in the way that they do. But it's not, it's 100% accurate, right? And that, everyone, was just me reacting to the top 7 FJ Cruiser videos on YouTube. If you want me to continue down the list and do another video like this, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, like and subscribe. I was just deciding to try something new. If this isn't the thing, then we'll go back to kind of our normal informational FJ Cruiser videos. But hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching the video. It's always fun watching FJ Cruiser videos, hearing other people's take on the FJ. But hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that you get to check out some more of my FJ Cruiser videos, kind of like as I mentioned throughout the video. Thank you again so much for watching, and until next time, take care.